What's going on? It's Mike Adam.
I'm Jim Shear.
This is the show we call Gimme 5. Every Monday you can catch a new episode on the web, the interweb. This week we have a fun category. We always have fun categories. It's artists that sound like other artists. Jim, give me your 5.
You know you think it. You listen to a song and you say, man, that sounds just like so-and-so. Or sometimes you think it is so-and-so.
Totally.
And then you find out it's someone else and you're like, oh, okay. Number 5 for me, Oasis. I think they sound like the Beatles. Yeah. And Oasis would tell you that they sound like the Beatles. And they would probably take this as a compliment.
Totally.
Number 4, Muse. I think they sounded like Radiohead, especially their first 2 albums.
Yeah.
Because when they put out their first 2 albums, Radiohead wasn't that detached from their rock days. So I remember a lot of us listening to Muse, and we thought, wow, this sounds like Tom York.
Yeah.
And then Muse rocked out more, and Radiohead rocked out less, and now you don't even confuse the two.
Right.
But back in the day, you did. At number 3, Philip Phillips. I think he sounds like Dave Matthews. And it's not an insult.
Yeah.
He might take it as a compliment. I think he's more poppier than Dave Matthews, sometimes more simple than Dave Matthews, but poppy and simple fly on pop radio. Number 2, I think John Mayer sounds like Dave Matthews. I remember the first time I heard it was his debut single, No Such Thing.
Yeah.
And for 2 months, I thought it was Dave Matthews. And then I looked up at the TV and it said John Mayer. I'm like, what? This isn't a Dave Matthews song? And then sometimes John Mayer sounds like Marvin Gaye. Yeah.
Okay, I'll take that one.
And number 1, this is kind of a vague reference, but the rock group Seether, who were bigger in the early 2000s, I think they sound a lot like Nirvana.
Yes.
Sometimes in their pictures, they try to look like Nirvana. You're not Nirvana, man! You're Seether. It's no diss. Mike, give me 5.
You know, it's funny, now that you just said that, it reminded me, I thought Silverchair sounded a lot like Nirvana back in the day. All right, so my 5 at the number 5 spot, Tame Impala, the lead singer, Kevin Parker. I think he totally sounds like John Lennon. Not necessarily the group and the music they put out, but the lead singer, like John Lennon. At the number 4 spot, the lead singer of Panic at the Disco sounds a lot like the lead singer of Fall Out Boy.
Yeah.
And it's funny because
they came up together.
And they're signed to Fall Out Boy's label, I believe.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they went like the Akon route where somebody sounds like you. They're like, hey, I'm going to make some money off you. At the number 3 spot, it's all rappers from here on in because I was surprised you didn't have some on your list because anytime there's a rapper, there's another rapper that sounds like him. Gorilla Black sounded exactly like Biggie, and a lot of other people would say Shine sounded like Biggie. I don't think so. Gorilla Black really sounded a lot like him to the point where I think it crippled his career.
Okay.
At the number 2 spot, a lot of people might not know of this guy unless you're from our area. Angelus. He sounded a lot like Jay-Z, and I say sounded because he was kind of big. I would say, I think it was the early 2000s. He was really blowing up. I think he still puts out music now, but he sounds exactly like Jay-Z, to the point where if Jay-Z died and they needed somebody to like sub in and finish some lyrics for Jay, he could do that.
Does he laugh like Jay-Z?
Yes, everything. And speaking of subbing in and not knowing if it's somebody's actual work or just a sound alike, at the number 1 spot, this guy named The Realist, who sounded exactly like Tupac, to the point where there were some rumors that on some albums that came out after Pac passed that it wasn't actually Tupac rapping on it. It was this guy. And it goes back to that whole Michael Jackson thing we were talking about a while ago.
We didn't know if it was Michael Jackson on certain songs.
So it's crazy, this guy, The Realist, and his career went down the toilet because it was almost like he was just an impersonator, like
You totally just flipped that episode. Last 3, you got deep, man.
Yeah.
There's some hip-hop heads out there watching like, dude, Mike, you got deep on those last 3, man. Because I have some friends and they're like, who's he even talking about? Yeah. Well, now you know. So let us know your thoughts below. For Mike Adam, my name is Jim Shear, and we will see yins later.